Check 1, 2. Check, check, check. All right. That's better. I am my own worst enemy.
Tin Hut!
How you doing, everybody? Andrew Scott, and you are back at the VO Booth Camp. So, on the heels of one of my recent videos where I talked about kind of getting out of your own way and taking care of your mental health, I wanted to make a short little video, and I promise I'm trying to make my videos shorter, okay? I wanted to bring up a few things that you might not really consider impacting your voiceover pursuits, but totally do. Now, obviously, it's really important to take care of your voice, right? You know, that should go without saying. But something that you might not really give enough weight to, I really encourage you to do. And that is, when you feel your voice getting tired, give it a break. Now, a lot of times, long-form narrators will experience vocal fatigue. And it's a very distinct feeling. It's not quite like a sore throat. Now, in those of us with an Adam's apple, it's right underneath the Adam's apple. And for those without, it's a little bit higher up. And what you'll wind up feeling there, it's almost like it starts to feel warm. That's your body telling you that you're pushing your vocal cords a little bit farther than they should go. So take a break. This often happens with people who do a lot of vocal fry, getting down here and talking like this, because vocal fry is pushing much more air through the vocal cords. Also happens a lot with people who do a lot of high volume anime kind of screaming stuff. And you might wind up developing something that could cause you some significant trouble after that screaming project is done. Content warning for people who don't like looking at biology up close. You might want to look away and just listen to my dulcet tones. When you're doing a lot of pushing your voice, you can develop something that's referred to as nodules on your vocal cords. I've never had them, but I've been told that they're actually quite painful. But the problem with that is really what they are like calluses on your vocal cords. And they don't go away very easily on their own, except with a lot of rest. But quite often it needs to be corrected with surgery. Now, something else attached to that is your ability to breathe, which kind of obviously important. But one of the things that you might not take into consideration in the breathing is your nose. Now, first off, obviously, if you're some European mixed mutt like me with hair in places where you didn't know you had places, trim your nose hairs. Being able to breathe through your nose is a key technique to a process that's quite often referred to in singing, but also really comes into play at times in voice work, and that's called circular breathing, where if you practice it, you can be exhaling or speaking while you're sneaking a breath in through your nose at the same time. And it can really help you stretch out your ability to, narrate that 400-word paragraph in the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. Your sinuses are also super important. And one of the techniques that I tell people to investigate is the use of a neti pot. Now, this is what a neti pot looks like. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you it in process. But if you can get past the squink factor, I highly recommend you do it. It's a great way to really, truly clear out your sinuses. And man, it kind of feels like a religious experience. Now, the other aspect of breathing that you should obviously be aware of is your lungs and taking care of your lungs. And there's really only one thing to say here, and I'm going to beat it to death like everybody else. If you smoke, quit. If you don't smoke, don't start. As a lifelong smoker who finally kicked the habit back on February 14th of 2020, I noticed almost immediate improvement in my read, my voice, and my ability to read long-form stuff. It's just that simple. And plus, with the price of cigarettes right now, just quit, okay? Please. So that last one was kind of a 2-for-1, nose and your lungs. But here's something that you might not actually think about and how it pertains to your VO business. Take care of your eyes. And I'm going to broaden this out just a little bit. Take care of the environment that your eyes are in. Now, obviously, if you need, glasses, get glasses. Duh. But here's something that you probably won't think about. So I sit here in between two big 27-inch monitors, okay? My camera is right here, but I got a monitor right here, and I got another monitor right here out of shot that you can't see. Unless, of course, I do that. And now you can see one of them. And I've got all sorts of other digital doodads around me as well. But about 6 months ago, when I was really doing tons of editing, I was finishing up an audiobook and I was editing for myself and another YouTube channel, and I noticed that I started getting vertigo. And it was really persistent vertigo. And for those of you who don't know, vertigo is a kind of dizziness where you feel like you're spinning, but you're not. And what I discovered is that I have a condition called cybersickness. And cybersickness happens when your eyes are registering a lot of movement, but your body isn't. So it's kind of like the opposite of motion sickness, where your body is moving around, but your eyes don't have any fixed point to concentrate on. And so everything kind of gets scrambled in your head and in your inner ear where your balance is located. And it's not pleasant. And it happens at all times of the day now. This ties into something. If you're working in a booth or a booth space, get some light in there. That encourages eye strain. It encourages cybersickness because you're really concentrating on a fixed point of light and your periphery sees nothing else. And that sponsors all sorts of nasty things. I'm a lifelong migraine sufferer. Actually, I have the worst version of it. I have cluster headaches. It encourages them. It encourages simple eye strain, which is just unpleasant on its own. But here's an aspect of darkness in your booth that you might not think of either. If you're working with a VO coach or a director doing a directed session, it makes it really, really unpleasant and hard on us. We need to be able to see your mouth. We need to be able to see what you're doing in order to discern a problem. And if you are just nothing more than a glowing forehead in a big black field because I'm in my booth, man, that doesn't do you any good, and it really doesn't help us help you or direct you. Get some light in there. Just go get a rope light. You don't need to be, lit up like you're, getting ready for your close-up, Mr. DeMille. But at the same time, brighten your environment. It helps stave off things like seasonal affective disorder. But more than anything, it just helps your brain understand what you're doing in that environment and not produce bad effects like cybersickness, watching things scroll all the time, all that motion, and your body's just going, what's going on? It's unpleasant and you don't want it. So get some light in there. But the last thing here is pretty significant. If you've been following me for any length of time, you might have heard me make mention of this. So when I was young, I was in a rock and metal band. And one night at practice in my buddy's basement, my ears started ringing. Now, that had happened before, okay? So I went home, got up the next morning, and they were still ringing. Now, that had happened a couple times, like, after we saw MAIDEN or, some other big rock band that we were all going to see at the time, aside from the whiplash. But my ears haven't stopped ringing since that day. This is what I have heard since 1985. Now, I'm definitely not looking for pity, so please don't, reach out to me and say how horrible or anything like that. I've learned to live with it, but it has been very difficult at times. And one of the things that I started noticing about 6 or so years ago is that it impacts my ability to perform and to edit. So I won't punish you with the sound again, but look at this spectral. You see those high points over there on the right? Those are all frequencies that I have trouble hearing now. And there have been times in the past where a client has gotten a hold of me and said, yeah, the edit's great, but it sounds really flat. That flatness comes from me not being able to discern those frequencies. And tinnitus or any other kind of hearing disorder affects your voice. Remember, there's a medical profession called ENT, ears, nose, throat. I just mentioned 3 of those things. They're all connected. And when one is out of balance or suffering from a problem, it's going to impact the other ones. Sore throat affects your ability to breathe through your sinuses. Stuffy sinuses, winds up giving you a sore throat because you're doing so much mouth breathing. And hearing or hearing loss impacts your ability to speak because you're not really able to hear yourself anymore or hear yourself accurately. And so you start subconsciously making changes to your vocal presentation that make you sound like you in your head, but not to other people. I'm a big fan of going to see specialists when something up here needs to be dealt with. I have students right now. One of them is getting ready for oral surgery. I have another person who is going to see an ENT person about what we discovered was a deviated septum. If things aren't right, reach out to experts and get their help. Because again, all these things are connected. And if one of them's out of balance, it's going to impact your voiceover practice, your ability to read, and your ability to earn. Take care of your tools, all of them. There are so many things that are important to your voiceover practice and your business that aren't directly your voice. Take care of them all. Do me a favor, if you've gotten anything helpful out of this video, as always, I'd be honored with a like, click, subscribe, and definitely join us on the Booth Camp Discord server. But until next time, everybody, this is Andrew Scott, and you've been at the VO Booth Camp. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.